like you and I have talked quite a bit about the goddess and what that means to both of us, but I think that you should elaborate on what you mean when you say the living presence of the goddess.
Okay, so I think a lot of the times when we talk about goddesses, it's in a metaphorical way. That they're in mythology or in myth. And my experience of it, of the goddess, is an actual living presence in the world, energetic, that is able to intervene in your life in a very immediate and profound way. So when we say the goddess, I don't really think of the goddess as an archetypal image, but instead as a living influence and a living presence that can support your life, support your sense of self, and also connect you to a larger view of the world and give meaning.
And it's a felt bodily experience. You can feel.
Yes, it's a felt bodily experience, right?
There's a distinction between feeling the presence of goddess versus feeling the presence of a masculine, divine masculine energy.
Yeah, yes. So this was while we were at Pacifica. I was in meditation one morning. It was before class, early in the morning, maybe like 5 or 6 in the morning. And I was in meditation. I do TM, transcendental meditation. And all of a sudden I was enveloped in this. Actually, smaller versions of this happened in earlier meditations. I'm just going to jump to the ones where it really felt like the goddess was present with me. Anyway, this one morning, I was enveloped in this bliss energy through my whole self, all the way. And I don't know how to describe it. It's a bit ineffable because it was an image, but it wasn't like I wasn't looking at a goddess, but like the outline of a woman in my meditation. And generally my meditations are without thought, without image. They're just, I'm going to, cosmic consciousness of just pure being, no thought. And because it was so powerfully, it felt good. Like my whole entire being, it felt like the moment when you get goosebumps from something being wonderful. It was like that, except for it continued for like 30 minutes, and it was 100 times the power. Anyway, I'm in this meditation. I'm experiencing this incredible bliss, and I realize there's this presence with me. We have a non-verbal conversation, I guess is the best way I can say it. And I was able to recognize this person and this presence, to have known it before, but not knowing how or when I had known it. And it was also this really profound moment of realizing, oh, all the things that human beings really want to believe, like we are connected to something greater than ourselves, we are a part of something greater than ourselves, there is meaning in the universe. All of those things are being affirmed to me during this meditation. And so there's also that part of me that's like, it's all true. Like all of the things that I had questioned or hoped that there was me, it's real and it's true. And it's more than comforting. I don't know what the right word is for it again. Anyway,
it's life affirming.
I ended up having to end the meditation because I had to get to class. So it was I just remember thinking, I can't believe I'm going to end this because I have to go to class. Like this is the most profound experience of my life, and I'm saying bye. I have to go. And I got the sense, again, I don't want to say it was speech, but basically the message that she was going to stay with me for 3 days, which she did. And so I ended the meditation, and I physically felt her presence all the time for those 3 days. And I saw you that morning, and I was just like in a state of awe and shock and like emotional. It was profound change, but it made it impossible, almost impossible to function in my daily life because I had this like incredible presence with me at all times. And then that night I got home and I, immediately went back into meditation, hoping that this experience would happen again. And an even more powerful experience happened. So I went up into my bedroom and the lights were off and I was just in my meditation, and it almost sounded like the wind came through the window. The window was open, and then I felt like boom, boom, boom up my legs, like from my knee to my thigh, boom, boom, boom. And all of a sudden it felt like I was almost like mounted by this vast, powerful energy that was just blowing into me, like into my heart, into my center. This love energy that was like, it was so intense and so loving and so kind and so good that I was initially afraid that I would disintegrate under the power of it. Like there was no way for me to contain the vastness of this. And again, a conversation where I had questions and answers. I don't have to go into all of those, but that was 1,000 times more powerful than what had happened in the morning. Anyway, after these experiences, and it continued, I was basically, it got to the point where I was like meditating 4 hours a day in these experiences. And eventually I had to live my life. I was in grad school. So I stopped doing that and tried to slow them down, which seems, I hope it didn't seem ungrateful. I was just trying, one of my questions in one of the meditations is, what am I supposed to be doing with this? And the answer I got was, what you're doing now. You continue your studies, you do your work. That's what you should be doing, exactly what you're doing. So it seemed also like that's, I should get back to my life.
Right. Because you're here, so you should be living your life.
Right,
You're not
exactly.
in the spiritual realm. Yeah.
Exactly. It was very difficult to integrate this into my life, integrate it into my sense of self. It was very difficult to live by it, even though it was life-changing in the sense that I look at the world in a completely different way. It wasn't personally transformative in the sense that I didn't become this loving guru who lives the life of, the gods that I experience. I am still me, still struggle, still, do my best, but don't always do my best.
But could you have gone in that direction?
I could have absolutely, yes, I could have gone in that direction easily. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And still might. It's not over. It's not like this is something that comes and goes. Anybody can access this. I'm not, as I asked in the meditation, does this mean I'm a saint? And I just got laughter, like, do you think you're a saint? I was like, no, clearly not. So, yeah, no, I mean, it's not over. This is accessible to anyone. I'm not special or gifted in ways that other people can't be. Anyone can, if they choose, through meditation, find these places of profound beauty and meaning and comfort, and the knowledge that we are all loved beyond what we can even begin to comprehend. All of us are loved deeply, profoundly, and what's that word they say? Unconditionally. Unconditionally, yeah. So it was during this period of time that I also began to get some insight into the meaning of near-death experiences. And I was studying those at the same time. It's funny, I don't even remember the process at which I gained insight into NDEs. It's sort of, now at this point, this was years ago, it sort of just all feels like a single piece of information, but it was very, very incremental that I gained little bits of understanding of NDEs. And I guess that's true of anything you study.
So I just kind of want to cap what you just said about your really profound experiences with the goddess and in meditation, and that experience of unconditional love that's accessible to any of us. In that sense, like, I feel like all of us are special. It's like,
Yeah,
there's not one person that's special. We're all special because we all
we're
can
all special.
access
Yeah.
that. And so it seems as if those direct experiences of that love of goddess somehow opened you up to the possibility of understanding the meaning of NDEs.
Yeah, cosmology, the shape and the layers in the universe. And we usually think of the universe as being a physical place, but there's a lot more to it. And that's what I think NDEs is teaching us and telling us. My experience with Goddess just made it very easy for me to accept and believe that NDEs are teaching us more about our existence than we generally will allow ourselves to believe. I mean, if you've had an experience of a power so enormous, so loving, it's much easier to imagine your way through what the universe really is.
Yeah. I want to touch on one point before we dive into NDEs, because I think it's important for people to understand, at least from your perspective, from my perspective, the difference between goddess, women, the feminine, all of these things, femininity, like in the sense that goddess is a living presence that anybody can experience. Human beings are image-making beings, that we create these images to understand our reality, which I believe is why we give images to goddesses and gods.
Right.
To understand these energies that are otherwise not understandable.
Yeah, just like how much I have to struggle to try and communicate my experience. Really, with images, you can begin to do that. But just trying to use language, it's not. You may be able to see that I'm moved by what I experience, but it's not something I can transmit completely. So.
Right. And is there anything else you'd like to say about the difference or the similarities between goddess, woman, feminine, the feminine, femininity?
Yes. Well, femininity is like a social construct of an idea that we have for who women are, which is again a social construct. The divine feminine is also a way of trying to talk about that feminine energy. But the goddess that I experienced was fierce and powerful beyond description, loving beyond description, and not to be not to make, like, I don't know, assumptions about women as like the weaker sex or any of that. There's no, like, our idea of femininity and the goddess that I experienced barely meet up. But the goddess that I experienced is very much like a lot of the women I know in this life. And so a part of me feels like we are trying to gender non-gendered energies in the universe when we talk about it as the goddess. But that is what I experienced. And that was the image that I had in my head. You know, it's difficult to say, you know what, I'm not an expert in the divine feminine or in femininity or in gender studies or any of that. So I don't want to go too far into that. I just want to say that I think our idea of a gendered goddess and the goddess that I experience are very different.
When I think of what you are describing, I think of kind of the awesomeness of Kali, of that, you know, really strong, powerful mother, destroyer, creatrix.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I remember saying to you after that night, I think I said to you, I don't even know if I can have relationships, like romantic relationships anymore, because I'm in love with the goddess. Like it was so big. So there was like a romantic component to it, a sexual component to it, an emotional component to it. It was big and all encompassing.